Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 87th Eden Fractal meeting. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm here with Rosmari and Tadas, and I think we're going to discuss some strategy and mission. Tadas was joking around about the strategic missionaries game name that I came up with today. Hope that everybody's doing well, and hope you're enjoying it. Hope you're ready for an exciting show, an exciting discussion. Tadas, Rosmari, as always, if you want to say hello before I get into the presentation, then feel free. Otherwise, I'll jump into the presentation and we'll get into today's events.
Hello, hello, and happy Valentine's Day.
Yes, yes. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone out there. Hope you're with the ones you love. Hope that you're enjoying your day. Um, and sending love to everybody out there. So, welcome to Eden Fractal. As Rosemary actually just put out a message in the Eden Fractal Telegram group, Happy Valentine's Day, talking about how this event provides a great way to network with talented innovators, experiment with decentralized governance, earn respect in consensus games, and after forming our vision, we're now playing respect games to form our mission and our strategy. So, you can learn about Eden Fractal if you're not sure about it or if not familiar at EdenFractal.com. Basically, we're a community that creates innovative game shows and tools, and we're using these game shows and tools to well, one, we created our vision over the past few months, and we have a vision now that all communities and organizations should have tools and methods to make the best possible decision making, fast, fair, and fun. And basically, we're playing these weekly consensus games, hosting weekly events to form our mission and our strategy and actualize that vision. Everybody's welcome to join. We host these meetings every Monday or every Wednesday at 16 UTC. And of course, we record videos too. We've recorded over 85 of these videos so far, and we publish them on YouTube and on the edenfractal.com/video site too. So everybody can watch and follow along and take part in the story. And we're also building tools to enable communities to make the best decision making possible as well. For example, Tadas is an awesome developer. So everybody can join our events and learn more at edenfractal.com or join our Telegram group chat. Our events, you can check out lou.mos/edenfractal, or you can find the link on the main edenfractal.com website to learn, and encourage you to invite friends and join. We're really excited to share all these great tools and methods with everybody and love to meet new people and love to collaborate. You can check out the videos here. We publish like really cool videos with like nice, beautiful artwork that Rosemary creates, and we work together on making it as helpful as possible and really exciting. So we've published 82 of the videos so far, and we're going to be publishing all the remaining videos soon. But you can check out where we're discussing our vision and all sorts of other stuff here. And there's show notes with timestamps for each of these and so forth, where we're experimenting with these games and helping communities and organizations cooperate in our Telegram chat as well, and follow on Twitter and retweet to help spread the word as well. What we do at each meeting is we play a little game we call Agendas, which is basically where people can vote with respect that they've earned in previous meetings on different topics. And I just realized actually I forgot to post the topic that I posted on Consortium, but I think it's the only topic, so that's okay. Basically, I propose a game or a discussion. I call it the strategic missionaries, and this is what Tadas was joking about because in the previous weeks we were discussing the mission of Eden Fractal, and then we were discussing the strategy of Eden Fractal, and then I wasn't sure exactly what we should discuss. But I figured it should be around there, and we can kind of play it by ear, whether we want to discuss the mission or the strategy, because we're discussing what should we discuss first, basically. And so, yeah, I put out this proposal here that basically to continue refining our strategy and our mission to determine the best way to collaborate towards our vision. And basically, we have some pages for our strategy and mission that we can refer to. Everybody can add our thoughts there, and then we can decide which one we want to just focus on more or anything else that comes to mind. And as in previous events, if we want, we can play a respect game, as we often do here, to rank each other's contributions to discussion, where we each say who hoped the most, who hoped the second most, and so forth, and get respect from there. Yeah, that's basically how it works. And if we feel like we could just have a discussion without a game, or we can play a respect game at the end, depending on how we feel like doing it. Our vision, if anybody's not familiar, we have a website page where you can learn much more about our vision, but I already went over that. So I'll just get into the strategy and the mission. We also have a Notion page too for the Eden Fractal community. And here we have been curating some of the work we've been doing for our strategy and vision and mission too. So you can go and click on any of these to find more details about how we arrived at our vision and what we've done so far in our strategy and our mission as well. And there's also much more on this page that will come together in the coming weeks and months. And then, yeah, basically for the strategy, we formed a, I'm getting a little bit lost in the slides, but we formed a template, and that's what we discussed last week, where each of us, including Eric as well, also talked about our strategies. We have some links here I couldn't find Tadas's link if you want to add that here. I know Tadas had shared some thoughts with strategy too, but you can find some of the thoughts we've done as well as the template and things we are discussing, like the products and like the products from Eden Fractal and the consumers and go-to-market strategy and so forth. This was the template that we did last week, as well as and yeah, these are the questions that we seek to answer basically. We had a great discussion. That video will be coming out soon, so everybody can learn more. And then if you wanted to review our mission discussions too, that was also on that main page where you can check out the previous mission discussions. We've discussed this probably on like 5 or 6 meetings so far, maybe the past 3 meetings before the strategy meeting too. And if you click on each one of these, then you can see our most recent discussions about the mission. So for example, where we left off as of 2 weeks ago was me, Eric, Rosmari, and Tadas each had a mission proposal that we are thinking about reaching consensus about these, and we figured that talking about the strategy might be helpful and informative for that too. So that's basically where we're at right now. I shared those links in the chat if anybody wants to review them. And we can just jump into it basically. And Tadas and Rosmari, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts about what you think that the mission should be, or what do you think our strategy should be if you've had some more time to think about the strategy. So yeah, I don't know if we want to play a game and have like a structured conversation where we each take 4 minutes, or we want to kind of just have like kind of a loose brainstorming session here where we just have it free flowing. But I see Tadas is unmuted, so if you want to go ahead and share any thoughts about the best way to conduct this meeting and the best ways to achieve our vision as strategic missionaries, then we'd be happy to hear it.
I think we can just have a loose brainstorming session. Unless you have something prepared, unless you think we should play a game or something.
I'm happy either way. Loose brainstorming session is that works for me. Game is always an option,
I
but
think the game would make more sense if you and Rosmari have like some very clear mission or strategy that you want to propose, and yeah, but I don't have it, I think. But I have some ideas I'd like to discuss.
okay, cool. Well, curious to hear Rosemary's thoughts. I do not have a specific mission or strategy to propose other than what we have from the past weeks. This week I've been pretty busy with I work with Optimistics and Optimism Fractal and stuff like that. And so I just listened to the Eden Factor from last week, and just to kind of reacquaint myself with everything and then put together this proposal. But I haven't made that much progress on the strategy or mission other than just thinking about it. I've been thinking about it, of course, but I don't have anything specific to propose. Rosemary, what do you think?
Same here. I don't have anything, any specific missions to propose.
Okay. Now, from my side, I watched the recording from last meeting. Yeah, so when a couple of thoughts. One is, as I understood, Eric kind of suggested that blockchain communities do not represent a separate market segment. Did you understand that way too? I felt that he meant that it does not make sense to name blockchain as a separate market segment.
I'm not sure if he said, I mean, I know he made a distinction, and I meant to show this in the presentation actually, but Eric brought up some really interesting points that I think are worth considering. So one of them was the distinction between market segment and target market. And market segment was kind of like identifying all the different segments of markets and groups of people who may be interested in our products or engaging with what we're doing. And then target markets is more like, out of all those segments, which ones in particular are we going to target and focus with our limited energy and resources and stuff like that. And then I know he mentioned like people didn't necessarily want blockchain as a solution, like particularly, for example, the nonprofits he's working with. They're not, so concerned about the having blockchain as a solution. But then also, I think one of us mentioned um, how blockchain networks are also more than just a tool, but they're also communities and organizations of people who are, I believe for sure, a target segment,
Market segment.
yeah, market segment, yeah. Um, so I don't think he was saying that that blockchain communities aren't a market segment. I think that he was saying more so just that uh, that's just for some market segments, it's kind of like a detail that's not so important, I suppose. But maybe I'm incorrect. Did you hear differently?
Yeah, maybe I misunderstood. I'm not sure what he meant, but yeah, I agree with you completely that I think blockchain community specifically, not just blockchains, are a specific market segment. And because I think the messaging, when selling it for blockchain communities, it makes sense to make it different than, for example, for communities that do not know anything about blockchain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Eric brought up some great points about positioning, and people basically have different problems, or a lot of times it's the same problem, and they need the same solution, but they see those problems differently, basically, depending on whether they're in, for example, a blockchain community or nonprofit or government or business or whatever it is, and we need to position our marketing and position our messaging appropriately according to the right different market segments.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing, yes, so about Eric talked a bit about competitive advantage and where it comes from. So just thinking about it, for me, I recently like became clear to me like our competitive advantage. I don't know if it makes sense to call it that, but where it comes from for us. Do you want me to share it now?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
I also have some thoughts too, but I'd love to hear yours.
Yeah, so for me, this is, I already talked to you a bit about it, but funding public goods, a lot of blockchain platforms are focusing on that. And I think it's because, like, when it comes to information or creating knowledge, it's very hard to fund information work because it it makes the most sense to spread it as openly as possible, but then you can't apply typical monetization strategies. You can't sell it. Yeah, so it's all public good basically. All blockchain communities are mostly creating public goods basically. Yeah, so all blockchain communities seek how to best fund public goods, and I'm starting to see a pattern where the hardest thing for them is the recognition of public goods. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's not just retroPGF, but also Pomelo. I think one of their arguments was that the review process was too costly for basically for them, for ENF to keep funding it. Yeah, so I think at the start, those platforms, we underestimated the complexity of how hard it is to recognize and evaluate public goods. And for me, the respect game, it's basically about that. This is almost the main thing that we do. Basically, we have a solution for, I think, the main problem of public goods funding on blockchain platform. Yeah, so I think, yeah, we have something that all of them, a lot of them lack basically, and I think that's our huge advantage.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing. Very inspiring. I have some notes and thoughts. I don't know, first, Maria, if you feel like jump with any thoughts, or as you're
I
unmuted.
thought about this too, about specifically platforms who want to fund public good creators as an end user too. It makes sense. And generally, I think that it can be anyone wanting to improve trackability of team efforts. So it can be any team, really.
But maybe not just a team, it could be individual effort. Maybe, right?
How can it be individual? Well,
Well, if a person has some individual project that community finds valuable, he can get respected and he should get funded. Of course, he has to participate in a community, in a fractal. So in that sense, maybe it becomes more like teamwork.
yes. So it can go both, it goes both ways. For the individual to get recognition and also for the team to give recognition and work collectively.
Yeah.
Although they may not be meeting with each other every week, they trust each other because of the process of how it is structured. It really is a structure around the process of sharing sharing and collectively distributing information. Of course, to close it off, there are the awards that come after contributions, and more so forming a consensus about contributions.
Very interesting. Okay.
I wonder if people in the past have made this sort of structure before. And I think for sure, in a way, it is a natural way to have a conversation and share. But maybe with time and with different concepts of how business is structured in terms of management, then this once natural way now is not natural anymore, and it's replaced by what is the new norm of managing a business or organization or a community. And I think right now is the time when things get changed and new ideas come to surface, and probably we are reminded of what has been once before we were even alive. But I think this is, to me, it sounds like the natural way of being, and it is simple to me, at least, and gives a chance for everyone to talk and share.
Yeah, I like what you said, natural. For me, why it seems natural, it's because, like, who should judge, who's the best judge of a person or his work, for example? Maybe more about his work. I think it's more right and more fair in the eyes of everyone if community is the main judge. So not some individual which sits above you in the hierarchy, but the whole community, the consensus process of community. I think everyone naturally feels like this is the right way, not to be judged by some individual person who is equal to you, but
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is the way that it naturally needs to be. People talk about living in harmony with nature and also living in harmony with man, and like that kind of goes back to the roots of growing fractally, I suppose, too. I see a lot of things that we're doing. It's taking cues from nature, basically. And nature is not taking like it's a very diversified system where trees are growing independently and so forth. I don't know, I'm getting pretty metaphorical here, but I definitely agree that it's a very natural thing that we're doing, but it takes design work to do it because what's happening naturally over the past like hundreds of years is not that, basically. It usually is like a hierarchy that is strict and there's just some king or some boss that's bossing everybody around, basically. But in order to grow and thrive, we need to tap into our roots with nature. I also, I mean, feel free to jump in, but I figure one thing that might be helpful is if I go ahead and share my screen again, and maybe also comment on some things that Tadas said there. Um, so yeah, I'm sharing this is something I meant to share before. This is on the Notion page for our strategy. And these were some suggestions that Eric made. We already discussed the difference between market segments and target segments. Eric also brought up a distinction between stakeholders and consumers that we can get into at some point. And then Tadas brought up the idea of competitive advantage. And then this was this is the graphic that Eric had shared about competitive advantage. And he talked about how competitive advantage basically comes from the resources, the capabilities, or the unique capabilities that we have, and the core competencies that we have. And kind of like the resources and the capabilities go into the core competencies that we can like specifically deliver. And then those core competencies, based on that, we do our activities and do what we're going to focus on. And then that gives us more competitive advantage, which then we keep on reinvesting and honing and upgrading that. So that's an interesting thing to consider about the resources we have and the capabilities we have. And I agree with Hadas's points about public goods funding. Like that's really important, really, really important for the world as a whole, and particularly for target markets that we're engaging with right now, such as Optimism and really all blockchain networks. They're all trying to solve this problem of how do we fund public goods in a way that is fair, and is natural, and where it's not just one person deciding it and they might decide to give it to their friends, something like that, but you have a community deciding it. And yeah, to Das's point about Pomelo shut down because they were spending like I think like half their budget, maybe like $100,000 a quarter or something like that. I don't really know the number, but it was like some large amount because they were employing people to do review process, and people weren't happy about it in a lot of cases. I wasn't happy with it because I didn't feel like it was very democratic. It was just like there were people who were just saying, nope, this is what we're looking for, and your application isn't accepted or whatever. And there was no sort of process other than just hoping that a few people would answer it, basically. And there's something that could solve for that. Also, we experienced retroPGF. It's more democratic. There's like 150 people deciding it, but still, it's just 150 people, and those people were getting overwhelmed, and people were feeling like all sorts of stress and pressure and stuff like that. And so with our system, we have a scalable system, which is a unique capability that we have, a scalable system where people can voice opinions together, take turns, talk together in a way that feels natural, in a way that feels fun, make decisions about where public goods to be funded, make decisions, all kinds of decisions about what are the best things to do, basically for um, for public goods and any kind of decision making that's helpful for a community organization. These are also the other pictures, so perhaps we can go more into the ideas about resilient culture, strategy, structure, and operations that Eric shared. These were really interesting too, and I recommend. Oh, and speak of Eric, there he comes. So I'm sure Eric will probably have some ideas that we can fill him in on, but we can come back to this at some point too. And then also the SWOT analysis that Eric had shared. And these might be good questions for us to ask at some point about what do we do well? Um, what do our customers and partners told us they like about us, and what areas do we outpace our competitors? What's unique about our business products and services, or I don't know if it's a business really, but and so forth. So these are kind of things that we're already doing, talking about like public goods, how we're really good at funding public goods and engaging this kind of natural conversation or enabling it where people feel heard and so forth. So these are some ideas we can consider. And then one other thing I'll show too while I'm still here is I was just writing some notes as everyone's talking. It's kind of sloppy because I was just writing it down really quickly. But in addition to competitive advantages with public funding public goods, we also have a lot of others too. Like for example, fostering collaboration and building culture, building personal connections. Also, I think that the products we're building will enable people to make decisions really well too. So I suppose it depends. Going back to this over here, like what what capabilities? I think we have a lot of capabilities basically. And what capabilities do we want to focus on the most, considering our resources to to deliver and to focus on with activities for our core competencies. And I think over time we're going to expand to like a wider and wider range of activities and core competencies that we're delivering, basically, including funding public goods, or helping to fund public goods, recognizing public goods rather, as well as fostering collaboration, building culture, and some of that stuff happens naturally as well. But yeah, it might be worth considering what is the most immediate need we can serve as well. Like, what are people most happy with? And going back to the SWOT analysis, about like what are people like? Where do you know, for example, like optimism appreciated? Um, well, actually, I don't know exactly what they appreciate, but I think there certainly is a big need there to help recognize and award and help fund public goods. And with that, welcome, Eric. It looks like you're out there in the ocean with some birds, and there's some waves. So, by the way, you're muted. I can't hear you.
Yeah, sky and clouds.
Oh, okay. It looks like a wave in the bottom left corner, like a crashing wave about to hit you. But if that's the sky, then that's less intimidating and a better situation for you on the camera, probably.
Yeah, I've got some more of those that have like birds in them too. They're like stylized birds flying. So
Okay. Well, looks very cool, looks very artful, and nice to see you. Thanks for joining. As Rosemary said, happy Valentine's Day. Appreciate you being here. We were just talking about, we're about halfway through the meeting now, but we were talking about our strategic mission. And we're kind of talking both about strategy and mission at the same time, but we're going into some of the core competencies as you suggested. We talked a little bit about market segments and target markets, and then Tadas and Rosemary brought up some points about how the respect game enables like this form of natural cooperation, natural communication. And Tadas had brought up this point about how one of our main core competencies is to help fund public goods, and specifically to recognize the funding of public goods. For example, with Pomelo or retroPGF, like they have issues in which it takes a lot of resources to effectively allocate funding with public goods. So, of course, Tadas and Rosemary can go into more detail about that, or I don't know if you want to respond to anything I said, or you both said a lot more, so I was kind of just giving a quick summary of it. But that's basically where we're at right now, Eric. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I do agree with Rosemary. I think in order for people to make good decisions, you need to change the culture in the organization, and that's the most difficult thing. Is we're actually helping them change the culture without saying that. But the big thing the respect game does is build trust and communication, which is the big thing missing for most unsuccessful organization. That's the big thing missing, is communication. And most places don't address it, or if they do address it, they do kind of bullshit things to try and get it done, and it doesn't work. And yeah, let's have team building. They do something and they don't really understand. It doesn't work. It's funny. My son manages a team, and the team has grown to very tight knit, very connected, and it's now at the point where there's so many people that they're losing that edge, that connection. You know, they when people come work for the company, in part of their training, they spend the time in each groups, and they uniformly reported that his group had the best experience, the best connection, the best culture. But now that he's big, he has to figure out how to retain that, and that's really hard to do when organizations. So it's kind of what Tadas talked about at one point, is whatever you do has to scale. And I think that's one thing about the respect game, is that it can scale and still maintain that, still build those culture and trust and respect. And I think it's really important. So I think under the product list, that's one thing we do well. So part of our capabilities is we have people who know how to do that.
Yep, I agree. And
But I wish we had a tool to make that easier. Funny, I actually met with some Zoom people yesterday,
Zoom
And I
people?
was talking with them about that. Yes, I'm actually people from Zoom in person. And I was
Oh,
actually talking that idea for the ability to put developers right in that, because I said breakout rooms great, but I talked to them about what we were doing with polling. And I don't know if the guy did. I met with 3 of them actually. And one of the guys seemed really happy about that. Because that really would be great. And he gave me his card and took mine. He said he'd look into that, but he goes, that would also be a great change that he would be happy to forward for me either way. But that's I think what we're missing in our product base is that tool that we're working on to make it easy. Really people should be able to just click on a link and they're in, and everything takes place in the tool. As easy it is for us to do it manually, I just know when you roll that out to organizations, what's easy for us is going to be infinitely harder to get a large group of people to do.
yeah, it's important to have an all-in-one package. Like when people download an app in the App Store, say like a Facebook app, they download the Facebook app and they can use Facebook. They don't have to download like a separate app for Facebook video and a separate app for Facebook posts and all these different things. Like it's just one thing they
Well,
download.
you also don't need a lot of instructions on how to use Facebook. You just get in there and it kind of leads you, and before you know it, you're hooking up with people. It's saying recommend. Like even if you use LinkedIn, it said, oh, hey, you might like connecting with Dan Singjoy. And you do that, and it just has you do stuff. Now to really take advantage of it, that's different. To go at the higher levels, you really need to. I mean, there's a lot of sophisticated stuff in LinkedIn and Facebook in there, but yeah. So I agree with that area of Tadas' strategy and Rosemary's. I think those are both right on. But I'm glad to see your YouTube pictures I sent you.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing it. It's very inspirational and very helpful, and a helpful way to structure our thoughts and organize our thoughts as effectively as possible. So thank you for sharing them. As always, and I appreciate all your guidance too. You have a lot of great knowledge about this. I think that we
Well,
want to build
you know what I have a lot about this is I have a lot of scars. That's what I have.
a lot of experience.
I have a lot of scars. that's what I have, probably more than a lot of other people here. Is I've tried in vain and done it and had some success, but it's painful learning, and I think we can make it so other people can do this with much less scarring.
Yeah, you have a lot of earned wisdom, and yeah, something that we've got some scars too. Not as many as you, I suppose, because you have you have 2 more years on us. But yeah,
I don't think this attracts people who do not have scars.
Okay,
I think most people come here because they've experienced some scars. They go, yeah, I don't want another one. I don't want to feel that again. I want to help other people do that. So yeah, I think most of us here have had some scars.
Yeah, I think everybody does to some extent. I mean, that's just what happens in life. But then, yeah, we can build these tools and products and so forth and engage with people and provide them solutions that will make it easier for people to avoid future scars and just to get what they want, like to be able to fund public goods in their
when we help
communities,
other
make decisions, and
people,
so
our
forth.
basic sales pitch is, those scars you have that you hate, wouldn't you like to not have those, not get any more of those? Yes, I would. Oh, good. We have this method that does it.
Yeah, and that speaks a little bit to what you're talking about positioning and speaking to the problem that people have. Whether they're trying to they have a scar because they're not making a good decision at their community, organization, or whatever, then we can address that and say, well, here's an easier way to do that in the future, make decisions in a way that's more fair and a way that's more natural and so forth.
Since you brought up the positioning, I forgot to send you some slides on positioning. But positioning is usually an axis, and it can be, an example would be, and it's how they perceive you versus the alternative. So one axis could be family or sporty, and the other one could be luxury or economy. So if you look at that, where do you fit on that? Are you sporty economy? Are you luxury? Are you a luxury economy? Are you a sporty expensive? You know, sporty sorry, sporty or family kind of, and luxury economy. So are you a family car that's a luxury? Or are you the sporty economy? Kind of like the Mustang, sporty economy, sporty, and anybody can afford them. So, you know, it's where do you fit on that? So that's when you do analysis, one of the things you do is you look and where you think you're best on comparing two things, and then you look at where the market is.
Mm-hmm.
Did I explain that okay for those that haven't done positioning?
Yeah, it makes sense to me, and I have seen. So I'm already a bit familiar with positioning, so
Ease
I
of
understood it.
use.
Mm-hmm.
Ease of use could be one axis. You know, enterprise versus software. It could be any two things, and you just figure out what quadrants you are, and then that's the position. Oh, we're the SAP. You know, we're the software as a service, the SaaS that's easy to use, or it could be amount of training needed. So that's how you position to your targets.
Right. Yeah, well, it makes sense, and I'd be interested if you did want to share. I remember you said that last meeting as well, that you could share a picture or a graph or a resource about that too. And I'd be
Yeah, it's
curious about.
easy. It's easy if we just look up, you know, market positioning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could pull it up. I'd be curious what like
Go
kinds
to
of
images. You can
adjectives.
pull. You know, I can probably find one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you can
Thank you.
even positioning tech. You can even look up positioning tech, and you can probably find a picture pretty easy.
Uh, in this case, I'd be curious what kinds of like variables we would compare ourselves to and who we would compare ourselves to, because we're quite different to most other
Well,
kinds of
that's
solutions in the
why
market, so to speak.
you do your targets first, because the reason you choose your segments and targets, because the axis use is what they care about, and because different segments care about different things. So that's why you do the positioning last, is because you go, well, do you care about cost? Is cost a big driver for them, or ease of use, or risk, or luxury, you know, how it presents yourself, image. So it really depends on what they care about. So you can have different positionings depending on who it is that you're targeting.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I see Rosmari shared a link with some examples of positioning, so maybe I could pull that up in a moment. But I'm also curious too, and we have about 10 minutes left here, and we've discussed a lot, like a pretty far-ranging brainstorming session so far. And as Eric said, positioning can come after to discussing other aspects of the strategy as well. And we were also discussing the product, and we were saying how it'd be great to have a product that it's like an all-in-one thing, like an app where people could do the video as well as the polls and everything like that. And I have some thoughts about that, and we're building that, but it'll take some time to get to like a final state. And to some extent, like if we're making our mission for say the next year, well, we have to think about when we can build that and to what extent we want to offer our tools and solutions in like bits and pieces when it's not totally done yet. So I suppose I'm wondering too, just like, is there anything in specific that we want to accomplish in the next 10 minutes of this meeting in terms of like what are the highest priority things that we should focus on for our strategy and our mission, or either one of them? I mean, also it's okay if we want to just have an open brainstorming session and think about it more and come back to it next week with some more specifics. But I'm just wondering if we want to hone it in on any like particular thing. I know that Tadas had mentioned core competency of funding public goods, and Rosmari had also mentioned, which I think is a core competency. Feel free to correct me, Rosmari, but you're talking about how like this kind of natural communication and this natural culture building is a core competency as well. So, um, yeah, I'm just kind of summarizing where we're at. I see Tadas unmuted, but I'm curious what we want to achieve in the next 10 minutes, and what is the best, so I suppose, next steps in defining our strategy and mission.
Well, I don't know what are the best steps regarding strategy. Just have some thoughts. I more meant that our core competence, I don't know if it's even should be called that, but I meant that our core advantage is ability to recognize public goods, because there are already blockchain platforms which attempt to fund public goods. But I see a pattern in a lot of them, in Pomelo, in retroPGF, on Optimism. We have a problem, very weakest pain point, and most strongest pain point is review process. And review process basically for them is about recognizing public goods. And for me, respect game, this is what respect game does, the main thing that it can do for them. So we have something to offer that they lack. And yeah, and we also, this is where funding for our projects can also come from, because like regarding that app where which would have everything, like where people can play respect game without having to use the blockchain and so on. I attempted to build that, and my conclusion was that it's too big of a project for a single person, basically. And that's part of the reason why I'm right now more focused on Optimism, because I see that we have good enough tools for blockchain communities, and I think we can use that to help their public goods platforms, while also using it to get more developers working on this.
Very interesting. So would you say that's kind of like you think is the most fitting kind of go-to-market strategy, basically? That's kind of like the most immediate opportunity that these blockchain communities organizations like, say, Optimism or any other one that is trying to, these networks that are trying to fund public goods, that's like a problem that they have and something that they're trying to solve actively, that we can go and we can say, hey, we have the solution. By the way, it also enhances culture and trust and natural communication, stuff like that. But like our kind of main pitch to them is, here's a way to more effectively fund public goods, or at least recognize public goods that you can use to fund. And then from there, we could attract developers as well as get more funding for these projects. And then we could use that as kind of a next step to also bring it to a wider range of communities and organizations and build those tools up further and so forth. So we can abstract away the blockchain components or like the technical stuff and just make it really simple for kind of more mainstream or just people who aren't familiar with the blockchain to use. Is that basically correct, that you're saying that you can see that as like as perhaps our best, or a suggestion for our best like go-to-market strategy and plan for the coming months?
Well, for me, that seems like the best path from where I'm standing right now. I mean, the part of it, it's best to focus right now on blockchain community. I'm not against focusing on other communities in parallel, But that's why I'm currently focusing more on blockchain communities and on Optimism specifically, because I see it fits the most with Respect Game, with its retroactive public goods funding platform. I think it's perfect with Respect Game, and yeah, I think what we have here is not like something that can be built like with one by one person or a small team. I think we need somehow to create an ecosystem which would attract more developers. I'm not convinced this is the best path, so you can try to convince me otherwise, but like that's my current view.
Cool. Well, that makes a lot of sense to me. And also, it seems like you're specifically saying that focusing on optimism and retroPGF, there's all sorts of Web3 public goods funding opportunities, but it seems like Optimism and retroPGF is the biggest one. Especially we already have some connections there. Or I don't know what the biggest, but it's the most. It's quite a big one. I think Optimism is giving more funds to anybody via public goods funding than any other network, and they're giving quite a considerable amount of it. So I think that makes sense. I think also what you said about doing different things in parallel, like we also do have like several different people with several different skills and whatnot who are in this little ecosystem that we have right now. And so we could potentially do multiple things in parallel and potentially do it different brands too. I've also been thinking about the stuff we discussed about Fractal Joy some months ago and the Mighty network that we had. Eric, if you remember the old gofractally.com site, and Josh had given me that. And we still haven't really used it, but that's also kind of like an all-in-one app that people can use even if they're not very familiar with like blockchain stuff. It doesn't really have many blockchain components or need any of that. And it doesn't have everything we need, but that's another solution, perhaps in parallel to developing tools and engaging with developers and blockchain communities and working on public goods funding mechanisms. We could also have, multiple initiatives going where we're also working to also make it like help educate people about it and stuff, even if they don't need to know about it, so that by the time that the tools are ready, there'll be lots of people who are ready to use those tools with their communities, organizations, stuff like that. That's an idea that we could do multiple things in parallel. But also, I see Rosmari shared the link about the positioning, and then Eric just shared a link to a book for nonprofit digital transformation demystified, a guide. So, and we also have about 4 minutes left or so, so we could wrap it up anytime, or we could go a bit longer if we want.
I have a reason for putting that. First of all, just be aware that we want to lead people from the why to the how to the what. So you shouldn't try and put those all into one statements because people aren't ready for it. Sell them on the why, then say here's how, and then say here's what. One of my strategies is a new textbook that I Value Global, the organization I belong to, put out, and we build digital transformation roadmap templates for specific sectors. My goal is to roll that out this year and hopefully get an income from that and use some of that income to fund developments within that digital transformation. Part of that would be what we do. And so I would either put money back here or we have access to a crap load of inexpensive developers from all over the world. But somehow I view this as fitting right into somebody's digital transformation. So that's why I put that book there. It's a textbook, it's expensive, it's painful. Most people aren't going to read it, but you ask why the textbook? Because when we say, why should I hire you? Who else are you going to hire? We wrote the textbook and nobody else has one. So that's a strategy right there. Put out a textbook to get credibility and say, hire me. Why should I hire you? Who else are you going to hire? We wrote the textbook. So it's a credibility part of strategy, just kind of being transparent of what I'm doing. So my goal next year is to turn that textbook, get rid of all the power of take the power of that and put it up into easy to use package to help them with the digital transformation. And then as we talk about that, what tools do you put in this? I imagine that ours would be one of the tools that we can map directly to outcomes. What we do in just in 30 seconds with our is we build spoke and wheel diagrams that focus each spoke as goals, outcomes, what they want based on industry, and we tie each one of those things into specific tools, trends, and technologies. So this becomes a tool, trend, and technology for helping them achieve. So it starts with us saying, you know, if part of your digital transformation is culture building, we can put that tool into that or into several other spokes. That's a lot for a few minutes, but I just kind of wanted to put that out there so you can kind of put that in the back of your mind somewhere.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eric. I've been curious what you're working on that, and that provides some great details and also a good strategy to create a textbook too. I'll go ahead and just share this on the screen real quick for anybody who's watching for the textbook that I think my screen share is loading. I don't know why it's taking so long to load. Okay, there we go. For the textbook that Eric linked to, Nonprofit Digital Transformation Demystified, a Practical Guide. So I'm gonna look forward to listening to this and checking out and thinking more about what Eric was saying, because that seems like a very interesting strategy. Also, just to touch on what we discussed previously too, this is the link that Rosmari shared about marketing positioning as well, and this is what we are getting into before. We're talking about like an access, like for example, high price and low price, and low
Price
quality to high
versus
quality.
quality, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the two things that your market segment that you're targeting cares about.
Mm. Yeah, and those variables can be different depending on what the specific product is. So, for example, this is a different one, which is sporty and family, luxury and economy. And then if I were to zoom out, then there's a whole bunch of different examples here. This one is least reliable, most reliable, larger surface area, smallest, and so forth. So that's something we consider. I suppose at a later stage we can really get into that after we flush down, or not flush down, but flushed out rather. Like who are the customers and what are the products and so forth, or if it's consumers or stakeholders, whatever it is. But this is a helpful thing to consider for us as well as anybody who's starting this kind of initiative. And then yeah, also we're at the time too. So I suppose just
Yeah,
one last thing.
those kind of wheels are things you could consider. The last one you had up there. See, there's like
this wheel.
No, down below the blue center, right? One
This one
there. Those are just things, examples of characteristics you can use.
Okay.
I think. No,
right.
Yeah, those are some, but you can find more. But typically when you look at those kinds of things, that's what they do. They talk about things you can consider for your axis.
Okay. Very interesting. All right. Well, we're a minute over time, so I want to make sure I'm respectful of everybody's time. First of all, I'll just say we have these meetings every week, so thanks again for everybody being here, and we'll meet again next Wednesday on the 21st at 16 UTC. Happy to wrap it up now, or I'm happy to hear last thoughts too. I'm not rushing it too. I'm curious, Rosmari, Tadas, Eric, if there's anything else you want to share here, or should we wrap it up?
Wrap it up, but I'm thinking we need to be working toward getting a mission statement. We have a vision statement, get a mission statement, then get a product list. How we explain our products to other people. This is our product. I think that's where we're moving for. And
Yes.
we had some good discussion. Go ahead.
So yes, and also I'm thinking about mission and then buyer persona, different buyer personas to define a few.
Is a buyer persona same as a target market or market segment, or it's more like a personal
Buyer
thing?
persona is an avatars, so we can have, let's say, 5 to 6 avatars or buyer persona. That those are the people who are your potential end user.
Buyer persona is personification of a target market.
Yes.
Like, who is your target market, and you get that characteristics, and you create what Rosmari said, an avatar, a representation of what your segment looks like.
Yes, like you can, for example, for each, we can think about background, demographics, personality, goals, and motivators, and
Mm-hmm.
things
maybe
like that to describe them.
Okay, cool. Good point. Thanks for bringing that up. And it reminds me, I mean, there's lots of different buyer personas, but for one thing, I can tie in, I think, to what Tadas was saying in a persona, I don't know, a binary in kind of a general context of like, developers to help build the tool we want and stuff like that. That could be, for example, one of the kinds of personas.
Yes.
Okay, great point. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, good points, both Eric and Rosemarie, about mission. We can hone in on that, and then perhaps that can be a little bit of homework, or I don't know if homework's the right correct term. It just sounds so like boring from school, but perhaps we can just think about it throughout the week, and then maybe next week we can just come to consensus about a mission. We can always change it, a mission to go forward, and we can come to consensus about products too, and figure out like kind of the product roadmap, and so to speak. So great meeting, very productive overall. I'm curious, Das, if you had any last thoughts, or Eric, Rosemary, anything else you want to share, or shall we wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks all for the great meeting. Really appreciate it, Eric and Rosemary and Tadas so much. Thanks everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. We'll be here again and invite you to join us and help create all the awesome things that we're doing every Wednesday, 16 UTC. Thanks so much. 3, 2, 1.
Thank you.
But
Go Eden Fractal. Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks all.
Everyone,
Go Eden
go
Go
Eden
Eden Fractal.
Go Eden.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.